That's right. Thanks so much for being with us. On to our first story. Well, the Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC, has condemned the Libyan government for its violent crackdown on protesters.
Well, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has called for an international probe into Libya's violent crackdown on the anti-government protesters. Navi Pillay called for an immediate end to what she called unconscionable violations. Pillay warned the Libyan authorities that the systematic attacks against civilians could amount to, quote, crimes against humanity. The same message was echoed by the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon. He urged Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi to show restraint and stop the violence against the anti-government demonstrators immediately. The UN chief also expressed outrage over the reported use of live rounds, warplanes and helicopters to suppress the protests. The UN Security Council is set to convene on Tuesday to discuss the latest developments in the embattled North African nation.
Turmoil in Tripoli. Footage emerging from the Libyan capital shows a city in chaos. The uprising, which began in the east, has quickly spread to the capital. Witnesses say the parliament building, as well as several police stations, have been set on fire. Elsewhere in the country, including Benghazi and Sirte, have fallen to protesters following the defection of a number of army units. In the southwest, local tribes have taken over the headquarters of an oil company in Obari city. And in the border town of Al-Zawiya, police have abandoned the city amidst chaos and unrest. There are reports of security forces using live ammunition against protesters. More disturbing is reports of helicopters and warplanes targeting demonstrators. 2 Libyan fighter pilots have reportedly defected to Malta after being ordered to attack protesters in Benghazi. The government has denied airstrikes against protesters, saying targets were ammunition depots in remote areas. On the political front, Libyan diplomats at several embassies around the world, including the country's deputy ambassador to the United Nations, have joined the protesters, calling on Gaddafi to step down.
And also we asked the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to start investigating the crimes committed by Gaddafi against the Libyan people.
The country's justice minister has also resigned, citing the excessive use of force against demonstrators. It's unclear just how many people have been killed during the revolution. The International Federation for Human Rights says as many as 400 people have been killed so far. Eyewitnesses have reported the slaying of more than 160 in Tripoli alone on Monday. It's unclear who's in charge of the crackdown. On Sunday, Gaddafi's son Saif al-Islam appeared on state television, vowing to fight to the last bullet. And Gaddafi himself appeared on state television late Monday to reject reports that he has fled the country to Venezuela. Meanwhile, a top Egyptian cleric has called on Libyan soldiers to kill Gaddafi. Youssef al-Qaradawi has issued a fatwa or religious decree calling on any army soldier who can shoot Gaddafi to do so. Several prominent Libyan Muslim leaders are also calling for people of the faith to rebel against Gaddafi's regime. For now, it's unclear what the outcome of the revolution will be for the Libyan people under a brutal crackdown by their own government.
Well, foreign governments are finding it increasingly difficult to get their citizens out of Libya amid simmering unrest in the North African country. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan has spoken with Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi to get assistance for the evacuation of some 25,000 Turks from the country. So far, only 581 Turkish citizens have been evacuated. The Australian government is also urging its citizens to flee the country as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Egypt has sent 6 airliners to pick up hundreds of its workers from Tripoli. But the situation on the ground is getting worse for the evacuation of foreign nationals. The airport's runway in the country's second-largest city, Benghazi, has been completely destroyed, making landing impossible.